Hey guys, today I'm doing a video on the Clifford Intake in conjunction with the Newcomer Copper intake gasket. And when I did the walk around of my Jeep, I told you I ran into some issues. This right here is the Clifford Intake. You guys probably know it. Everybody probably knows it. It's pretty famous. And Keith Newcomer says that it's the highest flowing or one of the highest flowing intakes you can get. So obviously I was interested in getting it. Also, I always wanted to try a 4-barrel on my on the 258. I didn't get a chance to. In fact, that's actually how I got this. I destroyed my 258 with the lifter and cam combo. Didn't work out so well. A gentleman wanted my 258 head. I said sure, and he had a Clifford Intake, so we traded. And I'd never worked with an intake before. I've told you before, I'm new to this. Here we have pictures of my old 258 engine with the Edelbrock head on top and the intake gasket, the copper intake gasket from Newcomer, and my stock intake manifold with the Weber 38. And it worked out just fine. I never had any issues. When I got the 4.0 and was like, all right, I'm finally going to go 4-barrel with the Clifford Intake, I didn't think I'd run into this issue. I got my 4-barrel carb in, got the Holley in, slapped on the intake, the Clifford Intake, and I had really high idle. I didn't know why. I figured it was a back leak, but you're never too sure. So I called Holley. I chased my own tail in that, and my vac gauge was stuck 5 inches above. I didn't know that because things happen. I just wasn't paying attention. I plugged it in. I'm like, oh sweet, I'm at like 21. I was not at all. So I got a new vac gauge, then I plugged it in, I was like, oh, okay, all right. So I do have a vac leak, which I kind of figured because it's high idle, but that's part of what made me chase my own tail, is I had high idle, but I thought I had high vacuum, and I'm like, what is going on here? This makes zero sense. Anywho, figured out with the new vac gauge, figured out it was at a vac leak. I figured it was the intake, and I never thought that it would be the actual intake itself when it comes to an intake gasket, like a copper intake gasket. Again, kind of new to this. Well, it was, and I didn't realize it. But at the time, I didn't know. I had cork in the shed. I figured, you know what? I'm going to get run today. I did actually get running today. So I used with shellac on the edge of the ports of the intake port. And that's what helped basically hold on the cork while I was installing it. Kept it in place and cut around the intake ports, as you can see here. And it really sucked because it was really brittle. But anyways, I had it was old leftover from shotgun reloading, and it's about 3/16, maybe an 1/8 inch. There it is in relationship to the exhaust. And it compressed down really well, as you see here. And it actually did fix my vac leak. Well, that was in December of 2023. Fast forward to 2024 in July. So it lasted 7 months, which isn't too bad. The guys on the forum told me it's not going to last very long because it's cork. But I was just like, you know what? I want to try it. I just want to see what happens, this, that, and the other. And it got me through, and it got my Holley 390 running, got my 4-liter running, all that. So I was happy. Well, then I had another vac leak. Obviously, you can see it degrades. I mean, you could say fast, but 7 months, I don't know. It is what it is. It's old school. And so I took off the Holley carburetor and the Clifford intake. And so at this point, I kind of knew it was the intake because the cork fixed it. Put it on a marble countertop, my marble countertop. I'm not too sure if that's actually marble or granite. Maybe one of you stone guys know. But you could see light underneath. And at this point, I had already done a few passes. So, and a feeler gauge, according to my notes, a 0.003 would fit under it, like no problem. And so I called Clifford and I said, hey, do you think this thing's warped? Do you think maybe the engine it was on got overheated? Do you think maybe it got dropped and it's out of spec or what? And he's like, no, use a Felpro gasket. Because when I told him I was using copper gasket, I distinctly remember him kind of pausing. And he was like, well, why would you use that? And I'm like, I don't know, because I want to. you know? And so he was like, I don't know if he, I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe he hadn't heard of the Newcomer product, or he thought I was like BSing him, or he just didn't, I don't know, whatever. So he said use a Felpro gasket. And I was like, all right, well, Felpro gasket obviously gives more softer, more pliable, stuff like that. So it was on to me either to get this machined or do it myself. The guys on the forum told me of an idea, which is using self-adhesive sanding paper. And so that's what I did. And you can see here where they have groove marks. This is from the factory, and you can, from Clifford. Obviously, you can already see a few passes that I did with sandpaper. Sorry, I took pictures kind of late. But you can see those circular marks, the machine marks. That was from, and they were much worse because obviously, like I said, I already did a few passes with this. You can see my strokes back and forth. The left to right strokes are me. And their machine strokes are those, looks like they cut it with a circular saw. Here it is on my marble countertop. I wanted to do figure eight, and so I tried actually 2 strips side by side. But when I would transfer from on top of one strip to the other, it would catch. And so it was just a nightmare. So I ended up just going back and forth. And you can see here the wet slurry and all that. Obviously, this is a kitchen, you know, move food products. My dog bowls are actually right on the other side of the edge. So I had to move those. I had to give those critters something to do for fun. And I kept going until I didn't see their marks anymore, the circular marks. And this is the end product of the 400 grit. It's really pretty, and you can feel it still, but it's definitely a finished product and way smoother. And when I got to where I couldn't see light anymore, and my feeler gauge definitely wouldn't fit under this, and you can see my light in the back. It doesn't look like a normal light. It's a Streamlight Sidewinder, that little rectangular green guy, and behind it with the black button. That's my light. It's kind of funky looking. And after that, when I couldn't see the light anymore, I did 800 grit, and that's where we get to this finish, which isn't mirror. This is kind of a bad picture, but it actually was that smooth. And you can kind of see my, you could see my hand in the reflection. I know, out of focus picture, sorry guys, but whatever, it shows. And I probably could have gone more, but all I had was the 400 and the 800. So again, me being impatient, I was like, I'm going to roll with the 800. It looks kind of like I don't know, like the face of a watch, and it's really cool looking. And it is pretty reflective, and it worked out just fine. I installed it, and I didn't have vac leak issues anymore, and I got it to idle way better. And there you go. That's how I fixed it. Now I can use the Clifford intake with the Newcomer racing gasket. So this is a project I'm going to be working on and sharing as well. Horseshoe intake to a carb modification. Not really original. I mean, you know, it gets mixed reviews. People have done it before, but I wanted to do something different, like flow it, not with the test bench or flow bench, but I got an interesting way to flow things and just look at things and see what the air does and all that. So anyhow, that'll be another videos, and I'll dyno this as well because I'm really interested to see a few different things. But I'll share my theories when we get there. The reason I show this is because I'm going to try the exact same thing on the top of it. You can see where the lettering is. And so obviously I need to make a flat base for my carb base adapter to fit to. So I'm going to try it. My machine buddy, buddy that's a machinist, I told him my idea, and he kind of gave me a funky look, kind of smile, and he said, all right, well, when you mess it up, we'll go in on Saturday and fix it. So we'll see how I do, you know. I mean, hopefully I get it correctly, right? And there you go. That was it. So that's how I milled or flattened out my Clifford intake to work on the copper intake gasket from Newcomer. I don't fault either company. It's not Newcomer's fault, and I don't even think it's Clifford's fault. You know, some people might be like, "Wow, that's really shoddy quality." Honestly, almost everyone nowadays uses Felpro gaskets, so like I'm kind of the weirdo for trying to mix the two. You know, it's not like the two companies call each other and it's like, "Hey, bro, like what spec are you going to?" You know, and you know, 100 thou or whatever. I don't even understand those those words, but you know what I mean. All right, so stick around, and the next video hopefully will be that horseshoe intake. If not, I got a few others. I might be doing a 4-liter with a 258 head dyno that I did, and then also throw in the 4.0 dyno I did. All right, thanks guys. Talk to you later.